What's up, YouTube? It's Rochelle McFly. It is Tuesday night. It's September 29th. Forgive my air conditioning. I keep it on at least until October. Hope everyone's doing all right. I had to log in, do a quick video, or my idea of quick, of the presidential debate. Now, it didn't disappoint. I knew it was going to be hilarious, and it was. So if I laugh throughout this, I have an ill sense of humor, so forgive me. Um, I hope most of you watched it. If I don't know how much informational value it has in it, but it's certainly entertaining. I am a Trump supporter. I always like to preface a lot of my Republican videos. I was a Republican before it was fashionable. So, no, I'm not a part of Black Voices for Trump, the YouTube circuit, Black Republicans, because most of them, they just became Republicans when Trump came into office. I've been voting Republican straight ticket since 2014, official and registered. Um, I always had conservative views for the most part. So that's a little background. So you won't see me at these rallies and all that. Now, what I'm still kind of speechless because it was just so funny. Um, I have to agree with President Trump. Since that debate, let me say this: that debate represents what goes on in the streets these days with Democrat supporters versus Trump supporters and all this other stuff. There was a feeling in this debate, like with the news and everything else. Trump gets scrutinized on everything he does and says, but everyone acts like they don't hear Joe Biden, his insults and all that. Same thing on the streets. Over the years, for example, I'm big on marriage in the black community. I always been, I always will. I'm big on marriage in black community, especially when it comes to children. It's without a question. I've always been like that. It's nothing new. Um, I have found myself in situations that I have gotten in trouble or can't voice my opinion without being scrutinized or called names or anything by people that I will just say would vote for Biden Harris. Your single mothers or baby mamas, as I call them. A lot of these grown men, one of the reasons I'm single, I did a video on dating. I'm going to take it off of private. I want to tag it in different things. Dating black men and whatnot. And these days, black men have their hands out. A lot of them. It's not a stereotype. It's not the media. I've been told in the streets by people who would vote for Harrison and Joe Biden, no matter how detrimental that party is to blacks as a people. A lot of these men are apathetic and they don't want to be men, and they're scared that the Republican Party might actually make them be men when they cut out all this bullshit, all the welfare and all this stuff, and start taking responsibility for your life. I can't even take Biden seriously. I can't, because Trump had quite a few good points. Last year, a lot of blacks, I know here in Philadelphia, they were working and eating. And in Philadelphia, one of the good things about Philadelphia is you can work 24 hours. You can have a 9 to 5, usher a theater, do Uber or Caviar. You can always work here in Philadelphia. And niggas was eating big time in the last 3 years. And Joe Biden has said how great the Obama economy was. Mr. Obama is the reason I registered Republican. I had finally had enough because under his administration, Joe Biden's right. They did have a lot of jobs. But the difference between Joe Biden and Obama's jobs and Mike Pence and President Trump's job, and keep in mind, I was in the job market under both presidents. There were times I couldn't get a job at McDonald's under Obama for whatever reason. A lot of the programs Mr. Obama and Joe Biden put into place for women like me, you had to be a single mother. I went to CareerLink downtown here in Philadelphia. They have several all over the city. The main ones down on JFK Boulevard in Center City. And I remember looking at a program that had a book of jobs back in 2011, 2010 and 11. I just got to Philadelphia. But one of the criteria was you had to be a single mother. And that's how it goes in a lot of these democratic cities till this day. For example, recently when COVID first started, they were giving grants to single mothers. But I live in a democratic city and they can BS all they want. Democratic cities have whole neighborhoods filled with black women with no fathers in the house. And the men run around waiting on their EBT cards. And I'm not with that shit. Um, I the quality of jobs under Obama, Biden, you could have had a job or went and got a job, but they were Dunkin' Donut jobs. For me, people like me, I had to work, and I was very underpaid under the Obama presidency. I do give Mr. Obama a lot of credit. He gave people a lot of money to go back to school and get retrained. I got retrained under him, but I couldn't do much else. And Obamacare as well. Obamacare is a bunch of bullshit. With the exception of pre-existing conditions, I think they should keep that. But Obamacare was a debacle when it first came out. Oh, how the social media era, how people forget. When Obamacare first came out, never forget, I think it was Big Mama Michelle, as Jesse Lee Peterson will call her. It was one of her friends who got the contract to roll out Obamacare for over $1 billion, and that shit was a failure. And furthermore, for people like me, Obamacare would have been like $300 a month for me at the time, and I was only making $10 an hour at the time. I couldn't afford Obamacare, and I met many people who couldn't afford Obamacare. Obamacare wasn't a magic bullet, you know. I think I know Joe Biden. No, he lost. That I think this debate on his part was a very bad idea. Because for me, looking at that debate, I know Trump he can interrupt and different things. He's very, I don't want to say brash. He's brash, but he likes to get his point across. And you have to be a very strong opponent, be it in debating or just dealing with a personality like Trump if you're going to come at him. One of the things I love about President Trump is he's a standalone guy. As he said, Joe Biden gets good press, he gets terrible press, no matter what this man does. Now, as far as the environment, that's another thing. A lot of you Democrat voters and things, it's gonna be a sad day when all this is said and done and you find out that you have been rope-a-doped. More so, how the hell is greenhouse emissions going up when the world's been shut down for almost a year? Actually, if you think back a few months ago, at the beginning of COVID, they were showing satellite pictures from space on how clean the air was getting. Out in LA, you could see the Hollywood sign for the first time in 50 years. You could actually, no smog. So my question with global warming is this: how is the planet getting worse when the world is under lockdown or semi-lockdown and there's no airplanes moving, very few trains moving, a hell of a lot of less cars on the road? Hell, I live in Philadelphia and it's still busy because it's Philadelphia, but for what it usually is, there's very little cars on the road. Gas is dirt cheap. Very few people are moving. So my question is again, how is greenhouse emissions and things going up when things have been shut down? That doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense to me. I'm not saying the environment isn't important, because it is, but I have a feeling a lot of the environmental cause on the Democrat side, particularly, that shit's political. Big time political. Like everything they do is political. Because in my humble opinion, most Democrat supporters are weak. They're weak people in any facet. If you want to talk about young idealistic white kids, you can go against the grain and do all this stuff, but most of y'all, your parents are telling you what to think. You don't even have your own thoughts, and you're doing this for college credit or to be seen or to feel a part of something. Give it a couple years. Give it a couple years. Remember, young white kids, the hippies of the 60s became the yuppies of the 80s. Never forget that shit. And you young black people, You guys are weak in a lot of different facets, and if you want to be mad at someone, be mad at your fucking community. Be mad at your fucking parents. Don't get me wrong. If you want to put white people on that list, go right ahead. But white people and racism should come, maybe, in my opinion, and I never thought I'd say this, but maybe number 6, 7, 8 out of the top 10, if in the top 10 in 2020. Right now, black people, you better be worried about the economy. Because a lot of you work in the service economy. A lot of you work in the healthcare economy as CNAs and PAs and all that stuff, teaching aides. And who's to say in this COVID world, those jobs are going to be there to go back to? Have to think about these things. And no, I'm not for Democrats giving a universal basic income. Fuck that. Go out and work for it like us working people have to. Work 2, 3 jobs. Do what you gotta do. But I'm not down for the Biden, Kamala Harris, side piece, Willie Jones giveaway. Same thing with a lot of Social Security. You know, Trump they didn't touch on Social Security tonight. But I had a conversation with a 76-year-old black woman last weekend. And she made me think of Jesse Lee Peterson. And I got to thinking, he has a big point when he says, I'll call them the Jim Crow blacks and the civil rights era blacks. The Jim Crow blacks were a stronger people, harder working people, more rational people, more decent people. I think about my grandparents on both sides. They were Jim Crow people, born under Jim Crow, and were young people under those laws. And I'm talking to this 76-year-old woman who would have been almost a generation younger than my grandparents. They passed. And she would be one of these, she would have been a little girl, in her late 20s, somewhere in her 20s when civil rights was going on. And she's going on and on about Trump. Now, she put her point out, but when I said anything, she got very rude and short. But that's a lot of you civil rights niggas. And the Democrats have been rope-a-doping you since the fucking 60s. And they're going to continue to. You don't need no more welfare, black people, in any respect. In my opinion, in any fucking respect. And Social Security, a lot of old black people, I hope the Republicans, I hope they fucking privatize it. Because as selfish as you've raised a lot of your children and grandchildren to be, me, I used to be a person that tried to look at the bigger picture from a more, I don't want to use the word positive, but a more compassionate side. But we're not in a compassionate time. And I hope they privatize Social Security for a few reasons. My mother's passed, and I don't want to take care of a lot of y'all's mothers and grandmothers like that old, rude, despicable 76-year-old I met the other day. And there's a lot of those as they get older, the rest of the silent generation and the baby boomers and their rockhead ways. I don't want to take care of your parents. I don't want to take care of your children. I'm a conservative for a fucking reason. I care about me and mine if I ever have any children. Because that may not be in the cards for me. But as far as this presidential debate and the way the country's going, even if I don't have them now and I have them later, I want my family and myself to do well in the next 10 years. No, I don't want to pay taxes to support universal income. I don't want to pay taxes to support your parents and grandparents and all that stuff. I don't want to do that. I want more money to come to me. I don't want to pay high taxes. I don't want to do any of these things. And there's a lot of people like me. And I want the looters and rioters and different things. I want some law and order. Absolutely. It's unfortunate these people got killed, but nobody knows all the story, and you don't know why it's being spent to you in the news the way it is. But what I do know is all these riots going on from city to city, a lot of people, innocent bystanders or people trying to get around, have gotten hurt. They've lost property over these rioters and these looters and all this nonsense, and no one has taken anything seriously except the president. Like he said, when he said he was going to march them Fed troops into fucking Washington, they sat the fuck down. He should have did the same in Portland, Philly, and everywhere they were fucking rioting. How dare you? And then you all talking about, when they were talking about defunding the police. You want to know something? I said this once and I'll say it again. This is for you younger Americans. You talk about defunding the fucking police. You better be worried about what gets replaced with that. Because you're going to mess around and get something a lot worse than the police. And everybody, I think everyone and their mother has acknowledged, yes, there's dickhead cops. I've dealt with dickhead cops. But on the other fucking side of the coin, there's a lot of good cops out here in law enforcement on different levels that risk their life every day to save your loved ones. To take a lot of these children, especially in the hood, that are in despicable circumstances because their parents don't care enough to raise them. Living in filth, living with substance abuse, living with all this bullshit. And again, let me reiterate with you black people, us black people, but I don't feel a lot of the same way a lot of black people do. White cops is the least of your fucking problems. And I'm not really worried about it. I'm not really worried about Biden and Harris, what they're going to do with the cops or the economy or whatever. I guess in retrospect, I'm just talking because Trump, like he whipped his ass tonight, he's going to whip his ass November 3rd unless they cheat. Because it seems like all the ballots across the country, guys, that they keep finding, always got Trump's name on them. For someone doing such a bad job, what's the cover up? What's the cover up? And the issues of the debate aside, Trump is just gangster. Y'all can say what the fuck you want. Trump's gangster. He had Biden stuttering and he was turning red. That's gangster. When you can stand on your own and give a big F you and still say, I'm going to do it my way. And tell the truth like he was telling the God's honest truth. No one goes to Biden's rallies. They have made an ad that came across YouTube on my channel, and it said Park Avenue versus Scranton, Pennsylvania. Who would you choose? Motherfucker, I'm from New England. Park Avenue all the time, every day, all day, every day. Would you want to go to a party in New York City or fucking Scranton, Pennsylvania? I'm in Pennsylvania. If it wasn't for Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, what else they got going on? They got the Amish here. I love the Amish there in Lancaster. They're close to Philly. But you get what I'm saying. Scranton versus New York City. Come on. And yes, I know New York may never be the same, but did you ever go to vacation in Scranton? Come on. Come on. But anyway, guys, Trump's going to win November 3rd. And we'll probably see some more crybabies riot and burn and steal some more shit. Or they may draw it out in the Supreme Court. Who knows? But I know Trump's going to win. And I know that debate was great. And if you haven't watched it, you should. If you don't get much information from it, which you should listen to what these people are saying, you'll at least be entertained. Guys, thank you for tuning in. I'm out of here.